Well, let's go back to 1917. The Michigan legislature, they passed a law prohibiting the sale of liquor. That was 3 years before national prohibition. Michigan's always doing shit before everybody. They were like the first state to ban the death penalty.
Well,
yeah, this wasn't just a push for temperance movements. Powerful industrialists like Henry Ford, he wanted sober and reliable workers in his factories, especially at places like the River Rouge plant. And Ford, obviously, he backed it. And this law was called the Damon Act.
oh, okay.
Yeah, Ford like ran Michigan, basically.
Right. Well, this was paired with the Wiley Act. It effectively outlawed almost every kind of alcohol in the state by 1918. Not just selling it either. Possessing it also. You can't even make it. Even thinking too hard about it probably made you suspicious. Oh, wow.
That boy's thinking about gin. Lock him up.
But just across the old river, opportunity was a brewing, literally. That's because, as everybody knows, Detroit's it's just a short boat ride from old Windsor, Canada, which became the wettest dry town in North America. The Canadian government had banned domestic alcohol consumption, but here's the twist. They still allowed distilleries and breweries to operate as long as the product was being exported. See, yeah, why can't America do that? So legal in Canada, illegal in Michigan, and we all know where this is going. Damn right.
So you can see the city from
the city.
Right, you can see the city from the city. You know what's going to happen there.
Wow, bootleggers started smuggling liquor into Detroit. Either they did it from Toledo, where it was still legal for a time, or from northern neighbors. And this trade, well, it took off like a rocket. What law enforcement, you ask? How did they do that? Well, that was another story. Michigan's judges weren't exactly laying down the hammer. 1919, the Damon Act was struck down by the state Supreme Court.
Oh.
Still, the tone had been set. The thirst hadn't gone anywhere. And the people who supplied it, well, they're about to get rich. For a minute.
Yeah, that goes to 1920 when the 18th Amendment officially came into effect. Not just in Michigan, it's all over the nation. And in Detroit, the engine was already running, booze flowing from Windsor, connections forged in back alleys and bars that didn't exist on paper, speakeasies. It was fertile ground for gangsters, racketeers, and syndicates.
Damn right.
And soon those gangsters would be the Purple Gang. And they're ready to make Detroit theirs. It's going to be our underworld.
Look at that shit. Damn right. Wow. Well, they were led by...
He's definitely a Jew.
Right. They were led by A. Bernstein and Bears.
Any relation to the lawyer?
Right. It could be. Led by A. Bernstein. The Purple Gang was a crew of bootleggers and hijackers. Most of them, you ask, well, they're young Jewish immigrants. They got their start in a gritty stretch of Detroit's Lower East Side called Paradise Valley, anything but paradise. In the Hastings Street neighborhood, they called it. A lot of these kids, they grew up together. Many of them went to Bishop School, where they were thrown into the so-called problem child division. Wow. And yeah, it showed they were some troublemakers. They started young, pickpocketing, stealing in the Eastern Market District near their school. But they didn't stay petty for long. Under the wing of older gangsters, their operations expanded fast. Armed robbery, loan sharking, extortion. They leveled up pretty damn fast.
Yeah, well, that leads us to the name. There's a few versions, as of every other story we've had. One story says a gang member was a boxer who wore purple trunks in the ring.
Oh.
But the more infamous tale, two shopkeepers were watching the kids cause trouble. The one said, "They're not like the others. Tainted." The other replied, "They're rotten. Purple like spoiled meat.
Oh.
They're a purple gang."
Okay.
Whatever the origin, the name stuck, and so did the violence.
Damn right it did. Damn, by the 1920s, Detroit, major distribution point for booze smuggled in from Canada. During Prohibition, the Purple Gang thrived. They ran alcoholic beverages between Detroit and Chicago. They'd meet behind the Bohm Theater or safe houses in Albion, which is a halfway point between the two cities. But they didn't just run booze. They stole it. Hijacking was their specialty. And soon, even the bigger gangs feared them. Al Capone, of all people, chose to do business with the Purple Gang instead of fighting them. For years, they supplied Chicago outfit with Canadian whiskey. There you go, Al.
Of course. Why would he try to fight them?
Stupid.
That was just a start, though. It was they kidnapped rival gangsters for ransom. A criminal fad at the time, yeah. The FBI even suspected them of involvement in the Lindbergh baby kidnapping. Well, they weren't. By the late 20s, the Purple Gang owned Detroit's underworld. Vice, gambling, liquor, drugs, they controlled it all. They ran the local horse race and wire service and made connections far outside of the old Motor City. Abe Bernstein, he became close to Meyer Lansky and Joe Adonis. Together, they owned casinos in Miami. He's got mob connections now.
Oh, wow. Damn, they weren't above flexing creative scams either. They hijacked prize fight films, strong-arm theaters into paying big to show them. They staged fake accidents to defraud insurance companies. Their power only grew. They started hiring themselves out as hitmen. They became enforcers during the Cleaners and Dyers War, cracking heads in Detroit's unionized laundry industry. Bombings, arson, beatings, murders. This was how the Purple Gang got people in line.
This is crazy. Stuff like back and then that would have no priority over anything, like a laundry industry.
Right. Insane.
It's thriving back then. Today we're like, okay, coin laundry? Nobody's using that shit. Well, Abe Axler and Eddie Fletcher, two of their heavy hitters, they were rumored to have come from New York. In 1927, 9 members of the gang were arrested. Bernstein, Fletcher, the Axlers, Milberg, and others. What were they charged with? It was conspiring to extort Detroit's cleaners and dyers.
Oh.
As usual, they walked. But the real heat came from one Harry Rosman, who was owner of the famous Cleaner and Dyers. In a trial that lasted from 1928 to 29, he testified the gang demanded $1,000 a week in exchange for protection.
Oh.
Okay.
Wow. By the mid-20s, Purple Gang, there wasn't just a local crew of neighborhood thugs anymore. They were evolving, growing bolder, forming dangerous alliances.
Damn.
Among the most notorious of these, Fred Killer Burke and Gus Winkler. Oh, Henry's granddad. Both former members of the St. Louis outfit known as Egan's Rats. These two, they were stone-cold criminals. And now they are handling distribution and muscle for the Purples. For the Purple Nurples.
The Purple Nurples. Where everything was going smoothly, that is until Christmas night, 1926. That's when saloon keeper Johnny Reed was found shotgunned to death behind his apartment on East Grand Boulevard.
Dang.
Well, Reed, he wasn't just any bartender. He was an ex-rat and a liquor agent for the Purple Gang. Uh-oh. Earlier that year, Reed and the St. Louis associates had been in a violent dispute with Sicilian gangster Mike DePisa. Reed's side won the battle, but it was assumed DePisa arranged for Reed to lose the war poignantly.
Oh. Huh? The suspected triggerman, well, was a jewel thief named Frank Wright. He'd recently relocated from Chicago, and he quickly partnered with 2 New York burglars, Joseph Bloom and George Cohen. These 3 began kidnapping local gamblers for ransom, many of whom were connected to the Purple Gang themselves. Uh-oh. Then they made a fatal mistake. Because on the 3rd of February, 1927, Purple Gang drug peddler Jake Weinberg gunned down in North End. That crossed the line. The Bernsteins, leaders of the Purple Gang, wanted revenge, and they wanted it bad. So they hired Burke and Winkler. He said, "Go settle that score, boys."
Well, here's how they did it. They used bait. Meyer Fish Bloomfield, who was a friend of Wright's, he was kidnapped and used to draw Wright out. Winkler called Wright and told him he could get Bloomfield back. He just needed to come to apartment 308 at the Milla Flores apartment on East Alexandrian Avenue. That's not sketchy. 4:30 a.m., March 28, 1927. Wright, Bloom, and Cohen, they knocked on the apartment door.
Ooh. That's when the fire door at the end of the hall creaked open. 3 men armed with pistols and a Tommy gun. They let loose a barrage of gunfire. The hallway echoed with bullets. When the smoke cleared, Bloom and Cohen dead. Riddled so thoroughly, the coroner couldn't even count how many times they'd been shot. Right? Well, he was still alive, despite 14 bullet holes. When asked who shot him, Wright reportedly muttered, "The machine gun." That's all I can remember. He died 20 hours later.
Well, the shooting made headlines across Detroit, as you would assume. It was the first recorded use of a Tommy gun in the city's gangland wars.
Oh.
And when police searched Apartment 308, they found evidence implicating several Purple Gang members. Those were Eddie Fletcher, Abe and Simon Axler, Joe Honeyboy Miller, and John Tolsdorf. The very next day, Abe Axler and Fred Burke were pulled over and arrested.
Uh-oh.
But despite the heavy suspicion, neither man was ever charged. And in fact, for this whole case, nobody was.
Oh, wow.
Still, the message was loud and clear. This was a gang with serious firepower, with calculated vengeance, with connections that made prosecution all but impossible.
Damn right.
This was the Purple Gang's coming out party. I'm coming up, so you better get the party started. And Detroit would never forget it.
Ooh-wee. The Purple Gang was linked to the infamous 1929 St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
They were.
Which happened in Chicago. February 13th, Abe Bernstein allegedly called Bugs Moran to tip him off about a hijacked liquor shipment heading his way. Oh, Bugs, he bid on that. But instead of booze, 7 of his men were met by 4 assassins, 2 in popo uniforms. They gunned them down with Tommy guns.
Oh, Tommy guns.
Damn.
Well, this is where we shift gears to radio personality Jerry Buckley for a minute. Every night at 6 p.m., his commentary lit up radios across the city from the studios of WNBC.
Right.
It's perched on the top floor of the swanky LaSalle Hotel. This was no ordinary broadcast, though. Detroit had become a wild playground for gangsters thanks to the Prohibition. Bootlegging was a booming, gambling was everywhere, and violence, well, it wasn't just common, it was expected. Much of that booze, as we already said, came by Windsor, funneled straight into Detroit. And amid the storm, Buckley, he's the only one that dared to speak out.
Right.
Why would you do it, Buckley?
Buckley, why would you do it? He called his listeners the common herd, became their advocate, their voice. Every night, he criticized city officials. He pointed fingers. He demanded accountability. He didn't stop at crime. Buckley championed social causes, fighting for old age pensions, unemployment relief, programs for struggling working class. During the onset of depression, that made him a beacon in the darkness.
Yeah.
Gotta have somebody like that.
Yeah, but as you would think, not everybody loved Buckley. His fearless critiques brought death threats, lots of them. When urged to hire a bodyguard, Buckley just shrugged, I got 20 threats a day. There's always someone who says I'll be killed. Still, he wasn't entirely reckless. He kept a room at LaSalle as a safe haven, and sometimes refused to leave out of fear for his life.
Oh, shit.
In the summer of 1930, things came to a head. Buckley he set his sights on one man, Detroit Mayor Charles Bowles. Buckley, he believed Bowles wasn't doing enough. He wasn't doing anything to stop the crime wave ripping through the city.
Damn right he wasn't.
Why would you think that is?
That very summer, it would go down in history as Bloody July. 10 men murdered by gangsters in just 2 weeks. Started on the 3rd of July. 2 Chicago dope dealers, George Collins and William Cannon, gunned down right outside the LaSalle Hotel.
Oh.
Just minutes before his nightly broadcast, Buckley was gathering the details. That very night, he delivered the story with fire and fury. He called out the Popo. He called out Balls. He called out the city of Detroit. He called out the state of Michigan.
Right. They called out the president. Bowles, ironically, had run as the dry candidate, who a supposed law and order mayor who'd won the support of Detroit's Protestant community. But he couldn't stop the bloodshed. In fact, when Police Commissioner Harold Emmons cracked down on illegal gambling while Bowles was away at the Kentucky Derby, Bowles fired him. Said, what are you doing?
Right.
He replaced him with a personal friend, Thomas Wilcox.
Of course.
Well, this time, the public's fed up, and Buckley, he lit the fuse. His crusade against Bowles helped spark a recall election.
Nice.
Something that had never happened to a mayor of a major U.S. city. And as you would imagine, here where things get a little bit murky.
Well, because some people say Buckley opposed the recall. That he believed it was undemocratic or a waste of taxpayer money. Others claim he changed his stance, suddenly supporting the recall in his final broadcast before the vote. Still, others insist he led the charge for Bowles' removal all along, ignoring threats that warned him to stop, or else. One story goes, Buckley's friend, reporter Riley Murray, begged him to make a list of people who might want him dead. Sort of insurance policy, you would call it. Oh, Murray, he even suggested that Buckley announce the list publicly to scare off would-be assassins. But Buckley, ever confident, reportedly replied, I'll be all right. But guess what? He wasn't.
That's because July 21st, 1930, Buckley was at City Hall broadcasting the results of the recall vote. Mayor Bowles had officially been removed, 120,863 votes to 89,907 votes.
Damn.
It was a historic moment. The press went wild. After the broadcast, Buckley's wife received an anonymous call. The voice on the other end was calm, cold, and chilling. Your husband won't be home tonight.
Son of a bitch. Well, on the night of the
Why didn't you call him?
Right, on the night of the 21st of July, 1930, the very same night, Mayor Charles Bowles was officially recalled. Jerry Buckley stepped into the lobby of the LaSalle Hotel. That's when 3 men approached him. They opened fire, shot 11 times, right there in the very building where he had broadcast the voice of the people. The LaSalle Hotel, WNBC's headquarters. Jerry Buckley, the man who called out gangsters and corrupt officials by name, was silenced.
Finito, dead.
Wow.
His funeral was held at St. Gregory's Catholic Church, and it wasn't a small affair. 150,000 people reportedly came out to mourn.
30,000 of them didn't vote.
Right. But the tributes, they didn't stop the mudslinging. Police Commissioner Thomas Wilcox wasted no time trying to smear Buckley's name. He called him an extortionist, a racketeer. Claimed he'd been killed because of underworld ties. Wilcox even produced an affidavit accusing Buckley of accepting $4,000 in protection money from a bootlegger. But that affidavit, it was quickly dismissed, allegedly coerced. All right.
Wow. Buckley's brother, Paul, well, he had once served as an assistant prosecutor. He had a different theory. Jerry had been murdered in retaliation for his campaign against the mayor.
You think?
Michigan's Governor Fred Greene took action. He didn't trust the Detroit police to handle it fairly. So he ordered the Michigan State Police to investigate independently. Prosecutor Harry Kelly, who would later become governor himself, took the case to a grand jury.
Oh. A 23-person grand jury was assembled to get the truth. Prosecutor Harry Toy, he led the charge. Kelly served as a second. On the defense side, Anthony Maullo, Alan W. Kent, Nicholas Salowich, and Leroy Payne. The first witness, Mrs. Lucille Love. Her car had blocked the street right after the gunfire. She said she heard the shots, got out of her car, and ran in fear. It was also noted she was the daughter of a policeman and being paid $25 a week to stay available as a witness.
Oh, okay. Then came testimony of Gus Reno. He ran a taxi stand at the LaSalle. Reno identified a man named Angelo Levecchi. He claimed that Levecchi had exited the hotel just seconds before the shooting and signaled to other men to go inside. Levecchi was charged with first-degree murder.
Oh.
Other suspects soon emerged. Thomas Lecavoli, Ted Pizzino, Mike Morgani, Frank Camarata, and in a morbid twist of fate, Lecavoli would eventually be buried just 100 feet from Buckley. Oh, wow.
It's a small cemetery. Well, this case built momentum. Robert Jackson and hotel's night porter and Fred Terra, a known police informant, they both claimed to identify the killers,
right,
who they say were Pizzino, Bomarito, and Levecchi. But the trial took a chaotic turn. Terra, when cross-examined, refused to answer questions. He lashed out at reporters, yelling that if his photos were printed, he'd be dead. He was held in contempt, and his entire testimony was stricken from record, only to be reinstated later when he agreed to resume.
But not everyone agreed with Terra and Jackson. An auto salesman in the hotel lobby, he testified that none of the accused were even the shooters. And an electrician who was across the street said the exact same thing. Even William Adams was a bellboy in the lobby at the time. He couldn't even ID the suspects.
I'm sure they couldn't.
But there's a twist, as there always is.
Always is.
W.S. Martin, a WNBC radio engineer, he had vanished right after the Moida. A week before the trial, he resurfaced. He said he'd testify. He said that he saw the killers. And he said that they were not Pizzino, Bomarito, and Levecchi.
Oh. Despite the circus of conflicting witness statements and courtroom theatrics, no convictions were ever secured.
Wow.
Even though known associates of Detroit mobster James Blackie Licavoli were arrested, none of them paid a legal price for Jerry Buckley's death. Justice never came.
Wow.
Still hasn't to this day.
That's crazy. Well, then came the bloodiest chapter of all. The Collingwood Manor Massacre.
Yeah.
Gambling. Drug distribution. Local wire service. Bootlegging. Extortion rackets. Trade unions. If it could be hustled, grifted, or controlled, it was probably under the thumb of the Purple Gang. The Purple Thumb. 1927, the Purples were at their peak.
The peak Purples.
Detroit's undisputed underworld rulers. And then 3 men from Chicago came to town.
You would get this.
Their names, you know, Joseph Lebowitz. They call him Negro Joe.
But the real word.
Herman Paul. They call him Jaime. And Isidore Sutker. They call him Izzy the Rat. These weren't just small-time thugs. These were hardcore enforcers on the run.
They'd been shaking down speakeasies in Chicago demanding protection money from businesses that were already under Al Capone's control. Oh, you don't do that. Because Al Capone, he then gave him a choice, leave town or leave in a box. Well, they chose to go to Detroit.
Same thing.
At first, they were welcome, right? Kind of. They linked up with a smaller faction of the Purple Gang known as the Little Jewish Navy. This group used member-owned speedboats to run Canadian liquor across the water into Detroit.
Damn right.
I don't think you need a speedboat, but okay.
Wow. But as usual, trust don't last long. They eroded very quickly. These three, they weren't even team players. They hijacked purple shipments. They preyed on other local gang members. Worst of all, they ignored the unspoken rules, disregarding territory, burning bridges. They also tried to muscle their way into independent power. They even got a new name, the Third Avenue Terrors. Trying to take over Detroit's criminal empire, they did. One already dominated by the notorious Purple Gang. It wasn't just ambitious, it was suicidal. The Purple Gang, they don't forgive, they don't forget. They definitely don't forget.
After failing to pay back old debts to the Purples, Ray Bernstein, one of the gang's founders, he made a decision. He wanted the Third Avenue Terrors gone for good. And he had a plan. Bernstein, he used Saul Levine, a man who's friends with both the Purples and the Terrors, as the perfect inside man. He convinced Levine that the Purple Gang had decided to cut a deal with the Outlaws, Lebowitz, Paul, and Sucker, and appointed them as official agents in their liquor business. Oh,
I bet they did. So Levine, well, they had to, so he set up a meeting. A fake peace conference. The date, you ask? Well, it just happened to be on the 16th of September, year of 1931. Where did it happen? Well, it happened on 1740 Collingwood Avenue, which is a newly rented unit inside the Collingwood Manor apartments. As the four men, Levine and the Terrors, they talked inside. Ray Bernstein slipped out to wait in the getaway car. The signal was set. They heard the car backfire, a horn honk. It's time to strike, baby.
Jeez. Suddenly, one of the Purples inside, Harry Flesher, he stood up, pulled a .38 revolver, and shot Joseph Lebowitz at point-blank range. Then it was chaos. Irving Milberg and Harry Keywell, they leapt up and opened fire. Keywell emptied his revolver into Sucker.
Ooh.
Milberg did the same to Herman Paul.
Damn.
It was coordinated. It was a hit, and it was over in seconds.
Damn right it was.
Saul Levine caught in the middle. He watched it all go down, frozen.
Damn, what can you do?
At least he didn't get killed.
Right. After the killings, Bernstein, Fleischer...
Did he know it was a setup? I don't think so.
Probably not. After the killings, Bernstein, Fleischer, Milberg, and Keywell disappeared. Levine, the only living witness, was soon picked up by the Popo. Under intense scrutiny, under intense questioning, he cracked. He told the investigators exactly what had happened and who had done it. The murder weapons, well, they had their serial numbers filed off. They were dunked in paint to destroy forensic evidence as well.
Oh.
But ballistics tests later confirmed they've been used in the massacre. Ballistics.
Well, then came an anonymous tip to the police. Two of the men you want for the Collingwood murder at 2649 Calvert.
Oh, no.
They'll be out of town within the hour.
Oh, no.
Police rushed to the address, which turned out to be owned by Charles Arbach, a known underworld figure tied to the Purples. There they found Ray Bernstein and Harry Keywell in their pajamas.
Oh.
The next night, police picked up Milberg just as he was trying to skip town. But Harry Fletcher, he vanished.
Gone. He was like, fuck you. The preliminary hearing for the Collingwood Manor massacre began on the 30th of September, 1931. Saul Levine, terrified but determined, took the stand. He pointed directly at Bernstein, Milberg, and Keywell. He also named Fleischer, who again was missing. During the testimony, Levine avoided eye contact with the accused. But the three gangsters, they stared him down the whole time. A motion to dismiss Levine's claims was denied. Judge Donald Van Zyl, he ordered all three men held without bond.
Uh-oh.
He knew.
Well, when the full trial began, November 2nd, police had Levine under 24-hour guard. 8 detectives protected him constantly. During the trial, 10 officers were posted nearby, 4 stationed directly around him in the courtroom. Levine clearly feared for his life, obviously. Witness after witness took the stand. Some had seen the accused fleeing the scene. Some had just heard the gunshots. But it was enough. So after just an hour and 37 minutes of deliberation, the jury delivered its verdict.
Damn.
Guilty on all counts.
Damn.
Bernstein, Keywell, and Milberg convicted of first-degree murder. Life. No parole. Their new home, old Marquette Prison.
Damn,
Sent them to the UP.
There. Holy shit. Detroit's chief of detectives, James McCarty, he made it plain. He said, This conviction is the greatest accomplishment in years. Not only does it break the back of the Purple Gang, but it serves notice on other mobs that murder doesn't go anymore in Detroit.
Are you sure about that?
This was a turning point, the beginning of the end for the Purple Gang. 9 months later, there's another twist. June 9th, 1932. Oh, Harry Fleischer, the missing hitman, casually walked into the prosecutor's office with his lawyers. Turned himself in. While he'd been missing, he was suspected in all kinds of crimes. Even the kidnapping of the Lindbergh baby. Oh, really?
Yes. But the case fell apart against him. Prosecutor Harry Toy, he admitted they couldn't find Saul Levine, their only eyewitness. Without him, they had no case. Why there? The other three already got convicted.
Right.
Charges against Fleischer were dropped. The convictions of Bernstein, Keywell, and Milberg, they stood. The door was left open to revisit Fleischer's case if new evidence ever emerged, but it never did.
Damn.
Collinwood Manor massacre didn't just settle the score, it shattered the myth of Purple Gang invincibility. You know? And after that, nothing would be the same in Detroit's underworld ever again.
Damn. Detroit's chief detective James McCarty, he would later say that this case broke the gang's back. 5 years of arrogance and bloodshed. It's over. In their heyday, the Purple Gang were untouchable. Detroit's most feared crime syndicate. They ran the city's rackets, dressed like movie stars, lived like royalty, flamboyant, flashy, infamous. But as the years wore on, something started to crack. They got sloppy. They got arrogant. Most importantly, they got careless.
You don't want to get careless. They were known all over the city. Their fine homes, flashy clothes, and bold president in Detroit's nightlife, it gave them a reputation that bordered on celebrity. A kind of romanticized gangster glamour surrounded them, but that image masked a growing problem. Internal jealousy, unchecked egos, and a string of violent power struggles that would ultimately tear the gang apart from the inside.
Damn right.
Police, once too reluctant or too scared to act, they began moving against them. Gang members left behind more and more evidence, and their criminal operations, once meticulous, riddled with mistakes, got careless. They didn't care. No more covering their tracks. No more doing things with outside guys.
Right. Wow. Damn. Philip Keywell had already been convicted of murder. Joe Bernstein and Abe Bernstein, two of the original architects of the Purple Gang, finally received lengthy prison sentences. They had avoided prison for years, helped along by corrupt officials and ruthless intimidation game. But the law was closing in. The gang, you ask? Well, it was cannibalizing itself. There were new waves of infighting, bloodier than anything before.
Jeez.
Ooh.
Abe Axler and Eddie Fletcher, two of the gang's most feared enforcers, they were shot dead.
Damn.
And Henry Shore, a once respected boss within the gang's loosely structured hierarchy, he was also killed in the internal war as well. Some gangsters fled Detroit. Others were taken out by rival mobs or executed by their own. Many landed in prison. Then came the final blow from outside. A Sicilian mob faction, long tired of fighting for space in a Purple Gang-dominated city, they made a calculated decision. Eliminate the competition.
That's what the Sicilian mob does. Damn. Purple Gang's reign didn't end in a blaze of glory. It ended in erosion. Internal betrayal. Bad decisions. External pressure from a rise in mafia presence brought the once mighty gang to its knees. The empire didn't vanish overnight, but it withered. What was left of the gang continued in a diminished form, but they were a shadow of their former selves. In the vacuum, Detroit's modern-day mafia stepped in. The city's criminal underworld, once dominated by flashy Jewish bootleggers, now belonged to the next wave of organized crime. The Purple Gang had ruled Detroit with fear, firepower, and flair.
Woo!
But in the end, their own ambition destroyed them. And that was it. The Purple Gang, the gang that once ruled Detroit with fear, was gone. Their body count, estimated 500 men. Damn.
500, huh?
Wow.
That was the old Purple Gang of Detroit.
Dude, anything that happened from 20 to 30 is just insanity in every freaking major city. Wow.
It's lawless.
It was insane.
Lawless. Nothing you can do. Just people killing and killing and killing. You never see that. I mean, you do see that shit today, but nothing like this kind of organized stuff. You just got thugs. But yeah, this Purple Gang didn't last long, but for a minute there, they made their presence known. Even Al Capone didn't want to
No.
mess with them.